I'm a hairstylist, and depending on who you're talking to, they may see that not as a professional career. They tend to. I've seen it's gone both ways. I've seen people take it where it is a professional thing for them, but then I've seen other people who they'll downplay it and make it seem like it's not as high end as other types of careers. So for me, I felt like, well, it doesn't really matter what I chose as my career. It just matters how smart I am with my money.
Hey everybody, welcome to It Takes a Village. I'm your host, Delina Medhin, and this is the most personal I have ever been. It Takes a Village is a time capsule collection. 10 intimate episodes where I share with you the people that have guided almost every business decision I've made. In 2008, I began my career as a makeup artist, taking on clients in the evenings and weekends, trying to fit it around my 9-to-5 job. And in 2015, I made the I wish it was hard, but I was tired of working for somebody else decision to quit that corporate job, that corporate 6-figure job, and fully commit to being a self-employed entrepreneur. That's where the roller coaster of finances, belief in myself, and how much I was willing to endure for my dream was really put to the test. When we see social media, we always look at the end result. But this collection is a deep dive into the process. To my aspiring entrepreneurs, this is my open love letter to you. The most important thing I did was to get around like-minded people. People who believe in themselves have the ability to inspire you to believe more in yourself. My dream for you is to develop an unshakable belief in your own ability to win and to identify your own personal village so you can become. Let's get into it. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
It feels like we've been friends for a very long time. It's because the span of conversation is from personal to business.
Yeah. Very easily, very fluid. We're very fluid with it.
We're very fluid with it, which is something I enjoy.
Well, you know, I'm a water sign, so that's what we do.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't realize a Scorpio is a water sign.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. That's true. That's probably why you understand Aquarius so well. That was my immediate thought. I was like, oh yeah, that's why she understands Aquarius.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about how we met. So we met through Manifa.
Yes,
we met through Manifa. So, okay, I'll tell a little bit of that story.
Well, shout out to Monifa because I actually owe her a phone call right now. Thanks for the reminder. Yeah.
I just talked to her recently. She had me cracking up. She's so funny. She's like, that's what the kids do. Mm-hmm. She always refers to the kids as if she's like, she talks about people like she's 75.
Like she's 800 years old.
Yeah. She's like 75 on her way to 90 with the way she refers to the kids these days.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I asked her, I was like, Manifa, would you come to Clubhouse with me? She goes, and I go, in fact, actually, I think you do really well. She goes, She was like, wait. She goes, I'll do what you need because of who you are.
Yes.
She goes, but I'm not coming to Clubhouse for me. And I go, I got it. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to try and stop you.
Monifa is a lady of leisure at this point.
She is a lady of leisure.
Living her best life.
She is luxuriating in leisure. Yes. Okay, so I met you through Manifa, and I was in a little bit of a pickle. I was talking to Manifa because I said, okay, I'm interested in having somebody come in and do hair because we had a little situation. And so I called you. Well, no, I think she gave me your information, but I think she called you first.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I can't remember either.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy because, like, when I'm close to people, I don't even remember how I met them. Like, I would not have remembered I met you through Monifa unless you reminded me.
Yeah?
I totally forgot.
Wow, yeah. So I remember, we met through Manifa, and she gave me the information she gave me your information because it was one of those last-minute calls, which I feel like happens a lot in our industry.
Yeah.
It'll be like 10 o'clock at night. You'd be like, girl, you ready tomorrow? Can you be there at 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
And this was back when you lived in Jersey.
Jersey. We're going to bring that up so soon.
Well, I'm lucky that you made the move over to the Upper West Side now. But yeah, let's talk about Jersey.
Jersey. Where do we begin? Okay, so Jersey to me was like a hustle. Mm-hmm. Like, you know what? Get the house. If they're going to give you these keys, take the keys.
What do you mean if they're going to give you the keys? Who's they?
Like people that give out keys to houses. Like, if they think that you qualify, pull it together, do whatever you need to do to get this house because it's something that builds value for us as a people.
It's true.
So,
and Black people love real estate.
Well, here's the thing. That is the quickest way to building wealth. The easiest way. So that's how traditionally white people have been able to build wealth in their community, which is something like I come from a long line of people who have owned houses over the years, and that's a way to build a financial wealth for your family.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think there's not enough of us in the game of buying houses at this point, even if it's just for rental property or whatever the case is. So, like, if your grandparents bought a home, it may have only been $50,000, but now that same house may be worth $500,000.
It's true.
So, in just a small amount of time, you can really build a good amount of money. So, I was like, okay, so with being a freelance hairstylist, I figured I need another stream of income. I need, figure some things out. But I just didn't realize when I bought a house in Newark, New Jersey, that it would be in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay, so let's talk about Newark. Because Newark is still very well known for being Newark.
For being Newark.
Yeah.
And it still is.
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy? Like, Newark has so many, like, beautiful cultural things there. Like, they have a great Black presence there. And historically, it's a great place. It has all the infrastructure. So it's a great place to, like, buy. And it's not, like, so expensive where it's priced out at this point.
Even now.
Yeah, even now. It's still a good place to buy. But where I made the mistake is I shouldn't have moved there. I should have stayed in Harlem. That's what I should have done.
Okay. Wait, so you were in Harlem?
Yeah, prior.
Like in Harlem? Where in Harlem?
Well, Hamilton Heights.
You know what I'm saying?
But I'm repping for Harlem. So,
But I was close, though. I was a walk away.
Harlem adjacent.
Harlem adjacent.
Yeah.
Okay. Hamilton Heights is Hamilton Heights, but it's also, people definitely live in Hamilton Heights and say they live in Harlem.
I'm going to go with Harlem, even though I was in Hampton Heights.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with you saying that.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Acting
I was
like
right
I'm
across
the
from
mayor
the
of
school.
Harlem.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Like, you're not a transplant.
Right, exactly. Like, I just pulled up and now I have opinions.
The other day. I was, like, right across from City College. Like, literally across the street from City College.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could walk there from here.
Mm-hmm. So I was there for, like, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, basically I was on the other side of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's cute. That's a cute area.
Yeah, it was really nice.
That's
My
a cute
building
area.
was nice. My apartment was nice. It was really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I basically had the house built. So it was like, who doesn't want to move to a brand new house?
All right, so you moved to Newark when?
I was in Newark for 13 long, grueling years. Like, it felt like prison time. So it could have been probably double that. Yeah.
Okay.
26 years.
So you were in there for a full life, full life term. Got it. Okay, so.
Yes, life sentence. Yes.
Got it. And so you went there because it was a new house.
It was a new house, and then I had literally, like, just started getting mice in my apartment in Harlem, and that's where I'm going to breach the contract every time. I'm going to move out every single time over mice.
Wait, what? They just pulled up one day.
One day they just showed up. I was there for like 6-7 years.
It was probably a neighbor.
I think they just made their way. Like, we've been trying to get in here for a little while.
Really?
I think, yeah.
You think they were already in there, you just didn't know? Or they hadn't gotten through the wall yet?
They hadn't come through the wall yet.
Got it.
I believe they're always in the wall, just waiting to pull up on you. Yeah, I do.
So scary.
It's a thing. It's New York.
It is New York, you're right. And they're on the street, so why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, I believe that they live within the walls, and every now and again they chew their way on through and be like, "Hey, y'all, just gonna squat."
That's so scary.
It's very scary.
So how long were the mice in your apartment until you were like, I'm moving to Newark?
I was being terrorized for probably about 3 months, but it was literally like,
oh, that was quick. You were like, I'm out.
Well, my house was already in production for like 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
so it was literally like the tail end. I ended up like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because I didn't plan on moving to Newark. I thought I was going to stay in Harlem, just rent the house.
Got it. Okay, cool. So, all right, so then you moved to Newark, and then you came back after 13 years. Oh, but let's talk about your experience in Newark. Let's talk about why it was so
talk about this. Okay.
Amazing.
Amazing.
The amazing. Let's talk about why it was so amazing.
Everywhere around Newark is really nice. Newark is just not nice.
What do you think that's about? Because I'm always interested in places like that, where it's like all the things around it are built up, but the actual city itself is not. So a lot of places
I
like that.
think because that's probably where all the Black people are.
Mm.
So what tends to happen is they get the least amount of money. So also too, it's like a property tax thing too. I know because my property taxes were really high in Jersey, they're really high.
Mm-hmm.
But when less people pay, we have to pay more money. So I think I don't know, like it looked like the crack era in the 90s. That's how it looked in Newark. Yeah.
The crack era in the 90s in New York,
Yes,
was what Newark looked like
in the 2000s. They didn't get the memo that crack wasn't a thing anymore. Like,
Got it.
it was heavily populated with drug addicts. And I didn't even know that was still a thing.
Okay, so you know the funny thing about New York is that they always say go to a neighborhood at night before you move in.
Right.
And that's such a New York thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like the neighborhood changes because even people who are like gentrifying the space or like moving in, they have those normal 9 to 5 hours and they come home or they come home in a cab and they go right into their apartment. So they're not out at night.
Right.
But if you see the people who live in the neighborhood for real, at night, how was that for you? Because you were probably coming in like 1 a.m. flights and then having to come back to the house. Like, did you feel safe?
Well, it definitely wasn't safe.
Okay.
At no point.
All right. At all.
No, it was very unsafe. Like, to the point, like, I grew up literally in the 2-parent home in the cul-de-sac. We actually got a white picket fence.
Actually.
Yeah, it's weird because my parents put that there after we all moved out. We didn't grow up with a picket
upgrades
fence.
parents make after you move out should be a whole show.
Girl, it really should.
Because my parents literally bought a bigger house after both of us left.
It was like,
we were like,
now that you guys are gone, we can live nicely.
I was like, but we don't live. They're like, it wasn't for you.
It wasn't for you. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you think this life we built was for you? It was for us.
No, that's smart though, because you can't break everything up. Nope. So yeah, the house, like, it was very like culture shock for me because, like I said, where I come from, I came from a nice place. A nice place being home with my parents.
Right.
So I just wasn't used to like the drugs. I wasn't used to like someone one day, I'll never forget, like this guy just set up shop on my lawn. He just decided he was just going to sell drugs on my lawn. Yeah.
On your property.
On my property.
Okay.
And didn't give me a cut.
So
didn't offer me a dime. Like that was the offensive part for me.
That's not where I thought we were going with this. But
I mean, you don't think he should?
But I get it.
Pay rent,
run it up.
Like yeah,
run me my money.
So I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work for me. There was a shootout next door. Yeah, because they used to sell drugs like right out the front window at the house.
Not the front window.
Girl, out the front window.
So nobody even got outside. They just did it through the window.
They just do transactions through the window. Just, I guess, I don't know. I guess they just
wait. Go back to this person selling drugs on your lawn.
So one day, okay, so I bought this house. My friend bought a house across the street, and her aunt bought a house down the block.
Okay.
So we had like our own little community.
Okay.
One day she's like, oh, who was that on your lawn? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So the next day, my tenant was like, there's somebody on the lawn selling drugs. So every day the cops will come and pat him down.
Yeah.
And he would just like throw the drugs in the yard. And when the cops would leave, he would pick it back up and continue selling. So the third day, my tenant was like, he's out there again. So I was like, I'm going out there to meet him because he has to go. So I pull up on him and I was just like, yo, ever since you've been here, the cops have been coming to my house and I don't need the cops in my house. So you got to go. He was like, oh, okay. I said, no, you got to go now. Now. He's like, okay. So he actually left.
Okay. He was trying to wait to leave.
I think till the end of the day. He's trying to clock out
close
later.
the business. Got it.
And I was just like, yeah, no, I need you to go now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were like, okay, we need to do this now.
But I don't know why he felt that comfortable to even set up shop.
So in terms of moving to Newark, so you're a stylist, right? A celebrity. I call you a celebrity stylist. You don't really call yourself that.
Yeah,
I know.
I would never call myself a celebrity
stylist. Celebrity hairstylist.
Okay. All right.
Porsche Waldo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I just want to talk about this really quick because Manifa, I want to talk about how y'all met because I think it's so funny because I've talked to you both separately about this, but I want to talk about the story of how y'all actually met. And then we're going to come back to Newark, but I just want to do that.
Yeah, so Monifa and I were both commissioned to do like this big photo shoot for Essence for like their 35th anniversary cover. Okay. So this is back, when they had like budgets.
Yeah. Tell me about those days.
Oh, good old days. Good old days of budgets. It's such a thing of the past.
Yeah.
It's almost like a distant memory. Yeah. When you could just name your
especially for editorials.
Listen, for everything.
For everything, but definitely for editorials are like, hey, you free? Okay, we gonna have food there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the energy for an editorial now.
They'd be like, you can get a cool $200, $250. That's,
Right.
And so I don't know why they decided to fly all of glam from New York to LA for one night only.
this is going to be so much beef, but has glam in New York always been really good? Because I always feel like there's always a need to bring people more from New York to LA than there is seeing LA artists come to New York.
Well, there's only one New York.
Right.
So people come here for everything. Think about it.
Yes.
This is the Mecca of the world. So people come here for finance. This is the place for finance. This is the place for art. This is where you go. New York.
Place. Yeah.
So I think once you get to New York, you probably will end up migrating west just for a better quality of life, I think. But otherwise, there's where else is there to go?
I got it. So she's in New York forever.
Who, me?
Yep.
Listen, I don't think you should ever say never.
I agree with you.
Of it forever. It's not a thing.
You know what I say?
Never is not a thing.
I say, I feel really good about this, and this is how I feel right now, but I reserve the right to change my mind.
No, that's real because, well, here's the thing. New York, although like in all its glory, is still the dirtiest place I've ever been in my entire life. And I can never get used to that. I will never get used to it. I'm not even trying to get used to it. Yeah. So I'm very like isolated in my movement in New York. Like I don't take the train. I feel like if I can't like take a car service where I'm going, then I failed and I need to move. Like it doesn't affect my money. It doesn't affect my budget. So, I need to move a certain way in New York. If I don't, then I failed. I gotta go.
Okay, so you're SJP. You know how she never took the train, like her character Carrie? Well, I shouldn't say Sarah Jessica Parker. I should say Carrie from Sex and the City. How she literally, you remember that one day where she took the train where she went to go see Miranda and it was like a big deal? She's like, girl, I took the train. And it was like...
Yeah, that's me. Yep. That's definitely me.
Like she even took a cab to Staten Island.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I take cabs to Long Island.
Maybe cab back.
Long Island all the time. New Jersey all the time. Like, I don't want to go unless I'm going by car.
I get it. Respect.
I mean, everybody has their thing. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I had like millionaires take the train. It's New York. Everybody gets on the train.
That's true. You're right. Everyone does.
But that's my thing. I don't think that I need to see mice and rats on a daily basis. So I choose not.
So I treat myself.
I don't treat myself. That's my standard. It's not a treat. That's what it is. I can't.
But you know what? I don't have very many friends who do that, but I have a lot of friends who come visit New York and they're like, the train. They're like, no, we taking cabs everywhere today. Like, and I'm like, okay. I'm like, if that's what you want to do, but that's literally, I think it's a personality thing. I think if they lived in New York, I feel like they would be the same way. I don't think they would change. Yeah, I don't think they would change.
So I can buy into that because I was never like the person to be on the train. Like I would have to have someone who just says, no, we're going to take the train.
Right.
And they have to, like the last time I took the train, I had like a kid put me on the train and tell me which stop to get off.
Wow. So we're there.
I don't even know what to do at this point.
Okay, so Essence. So Essence magazine, you're flying to LA. Okay.
For this photo shoot. And again, like I said, they brought everybody out from New York. I don't think anyone was from LA who did the shoot. So Monifa was there, Sam Fine was on my flight, Worry Rice was on my flight. Like we all were like, that's who I can. Ashunta was there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was like we all came from New York. So Monifa and I were supposed to take the car service together from the airport to the hotel.
Okay.
But they lost my luggage because there was like a huge blizzard. So everyone's car services were like, because we had car services from our apartments to the airport because that was a thing. Mm. Yeah, for everyone. But because of the blizzard, it like screwed up everything. So they had to like rebook our flights the same day that morning. And some people's car service made it, some people's didn't, depending on where you live. The snow, they couldn't even get to you. Yeah, it was bad. I remember Worry was like, my father had to bring me to the airport because his car just never could get to him. It was really bad. So I get to the airport
and the planes were still taking off?
Yeah.
New York does not play.
Girl, no games.
New York will be like, if you pull up, we got you.
So this is the new New York where they just be like, oh, we're going to shut everything down. That's like very new.
It used to not be like that.
Girl, I'm talking 10 years ago, it wasn't like that.
Wow. Yeah. What do you think that's about?
Budgets. Mm. They don't want to pay
the money to clean and like defrost and deplant and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever flown private?
No, have you?
Girl, yes.
Ooh, is it nice?
So that's the thing. Once you fly private, everything else is shit.
Okay, I'm willing to experience it.
So that's
I'm
the
willing.
thing.
I'm willing to have that attitude for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really a thing. So
I thought private planes were smaller though. They are. They can be
smaller.
Yeah.
But
More comfortable.
when it's just you and like 5 other people that you know on the flight, doesn't matter. Everybody's got like a captain's chair. There's no one, like your legs aren't in. There's not like a chair right in front of you on a private.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you still can
space.
stretch out and like chill.
You know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and write that into my plan of
Listen,
life.
put
I want
that
to.
into
I want to
the
fly private.
atmosphere when I tell you.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Oh God.
Okay, so let's go back to Essence. So Essence magazine flies you guys out.
Yeah.
No, well, I was gonna say no issues getting on the plane, but obviously
There were a lot of issues getting transportation wise, ground transportation wise. There were issues.
Okay.
But we all made the flight and it was fine. But once we got there, they lost my luggage. So Monifa was like super tired because we were just like on this really long flight.
Mm-hmm.
So Monifa basically was like, well, girl, that's terrible and everything. But what I can't do is wait for you to figure out your luggage situation. So I'm going to just take the car and just go. So she calls like whoever was in charge at the time. And they were like, that car is absolutely not going to move without Porsche in it. And I was like, ding. I won.
Yeah, I won. Was she like? How did she handle that? Because I feel like Monifa is a very independent woman.
But Monifa is just so dramatic. You know, she's
True.
a lady. That's
True.
a lady.
She is a lady. She is a lady.
That is a diva.
Yeah.
So she was giving,
She is.
like, she was clutching pearls, all of that. But she was
like,
but okay, all right. If that's what.
Yeah.
So she waited. And the thing is, we didn't have to wait too long because it was on the next flight.
Oh, good.
So
you did actually get your bag.
Yeah, I did get my bag, but I was already like calling people I don't even like, but I gotta get this kit together just for photo shoots in the morning. So
and they were like, I got you, even though I don't like you either.
Listen, let me tell you, here's the thing.
Yeah.
That's why like you need frenemies.
Mm.
You know?
No, tell me, because I want to know, because I am, you know, I'm a Virgo, right? So we don't have frenemies.
Listen.
We have people we're cool with and people we're not cool with.
No,
Period.
but the thing is, like, sometimes if you're in a pickle, you in a pinch, like this situation, because there would have been no time for me to get, like, I couldn't pull a kit together that hour.
So you had to literally just take something from somebody and be like, yo, I just need to borrow this for a few hours and I'll be back.
I called this white chick I knew and was like, hey, what black products do you have? And this chick was a whole mess, okay? A whole, like, she's no one I would have ever called otherwise.
Right.
But in that moment, she was appropriate because I knew she had an extensive kit. So I called her and I was about to call this girl that I really hate. Mm-hmm. But I was going to call her. Mm-hmm. And I know she would have given it to me, even though we're like oil and water.
Yeah.
I know she would have done it. And well, let me put it this way. I believe that me getting anything from her would have been very much like she needed her credit for everything that she was doing for me. She would need me to acknowledge it, and I would be willing to eat crow and do it. But I know that she would not have denied me the kit. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, you know what? Why would she have given you that kit?
Because at the end of the day, if she was in a bind or in the pickle, I would have done the same thing for her.
Okay.
Even though, bitch, I hate your guts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But we're in the same industry, and you know what this is right now. Mm-hmm. So
the way you're looking at me right now, I'm like, I'll give you my comb.
See what I'm saying? But like, you know what? I feel like this, and I feel this way about myself as well as the girl I'm telling you about. Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't say she's a nice person, but she's good people's. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, even like I said, when I talk about myself, I think of me as good people. Mm-hmm. You are. So even against like my better judgment of like, yo, I can't stand her, but I know she needs this right now. So I'm going to do the right thing in the moment. Okay. And I think she has that same quality, which is why I would have called her. But it definitely would have came with a, see, you need me. She might actually say that too.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So there would have been ego involved, but regardless, you would have been good.
Ego intact. Yeah.
So Monifa didn't pull off.
Monifa couldn't pull off.
She would have, but she
be very clear. Okay. If Monifa could have left me there, she would have.
Okay.
But she wasn't allowed to. So it all worked out. So for years I hated Monifa.
Really?
I was like, she's such a diva. And then we ended up working together on this TV show. We worked together for years on the show. And I was like, yeah, Monifa, you were such a bitch to me. And she was like, what? Oh, no. And when I told her the story, she was like, yeah, that's something I would do. definitely was like, yep, sounds about right.
Yeah. She was like, that's me. You clocked me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I don't know. I think it was like just that moment where we both were like, we laughed it off, and it was like, it all just melted away.
Yeah. So she's self-aware.
She's very self-aware, but at the same time, like, I guess I didn't harbor it too much. You know what I'm saying?
No, you didn't. I'm sure you didn't. I feel like now, and it's funny that you tell me this story because my experience in knowing you is obviously through her. And the way she spoke about you was so highly, like, I just was like, I just figured y'all were like two peas in a pod. Like, you guys were like freaking frat. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, and the truth is I've been to lunch with both of y'all and y'all kind of are.
But you know what? It's like, I think from our generation,
Yeah.
I think we all just had a certain way of how we work or how we move. You know what I mean? So like I said, even if we weren't like cool or friends, we still respected each other's craft and our business.
Yeah, that's different. Now it's not like that at all.
It doesn't feel like that to me at this point.
No, it's a little bit, it's more cutthroat now, I think, in terms of people view you doing well or you getting something as them not getting something. And it's to the point where, I mean, you and I have talked about rates a lot throughout the years. And I feel like the interesting thing is, I remember one time when you told me, you go, even if I didn't like somebody, I'd still tell them what to charge. Because I wanted to make sure that the industry as a whole wasn't gonna be sacrificed. Now I feel like the way people are, they're like, oh, I don't want to tell them. And I'm like, why are you not telling them? Because there's only one winner here.
So wait, why wouldn't they want to tell? Like, I don't understand.
They're like, I don't want to tell people what I charge because I don't want them to know how much I charge. But you're right. What is the benefit in that? Nothing.
Well, here's the thing. If there is no standard, right? So that's going back to what I was saying about, like, I came from a salon background.
Right.
But in that salon, we all did celebrities. So if they couldn't do it, they would feed them to someone else within the salon. And they would basically say, listen, charge this amount, do this. Actually, this one girl I used to work with, her name is Kaya, right?
Yes.
So
she lives in LA now, I think.
She lives in LA. Very, very much, we're like oil and water.
Okay.
Very much like we might actually be more alike than we realize.
Okay.
I'm sorry, than I realized. Over the years, I think I've realized like we have a lot of the same qualities, which means that we just don't get along that well. But she's been someone who was instrumental in my life initially with like, okay, you're going to do this person and you're going to charge them this much and you're going to do, she was very like helpful with me in that regard. Like being the celebrity stylist is never like a thing for me.
Right. Which is really interesting. Why do you distance yourself from that title?
I guess that I didn't come to New York for that.
That's what we have in common, I think.
I knew I would be successful moving to New York, but I hadn't pinpointed like that's what I'm going to do. But the thing is, it came very easy to me. Like I'm great at what I do, and like my standard of work is really good. So it was like, I guess like a no-brainer. And then, like I said, I worked in the salon, but that's what everyone did. So everyone started in the salon and they eventually ended up working with different artists or different, and it was very heavily music driven at that time.
Okay.
So for us, it wasn't like modeling. We didn't have like a lot of models that we did.
Okay.
But we did a lot of music artists. So that was our
at your salon.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. I think that speaks a lot to the way that this industry works. Is like you kind of get into a certain type of person and a certain type of work. Like for me, I work with mostly comedians. Right. Yeah. And like that's like my lane. Like I work in celebrity, but it's specific to comedy. So I've even worked with, male comedians as well. Because, they're all friends with each other. And it's the same thing with musicians. They're like, if you know how to do hair that can move on stage, right, that can like last and hold a curl and all those, because there are different ways you prep the hair. Same way you would prep the face, right? Like if you know how to do Beyonce, right? Like, and with her, all her sweating and like literally working out straight for 3 hours and looking like a dewy glow, then you know how to do Normani or whatever, you know what I mean? Whoever else is hot right now. Right. So it's like people know, oh, you know how to do that lane. So now I can trust you. You know how to do TV. I can trust you. So you were working in music mostly. Yes. Is that where you flew those private jets?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Music is like no money until you got money.
You think?
Yeah. When musicians are first starting out, they struggling hard.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. They're barely making it.
I never even thought about that.
But then when they get it,
so by the time I usually get to them, they already are there. I never really like.
You haven't been on the struggle.
Well, people. I had someone recently hit me up like, oh, so I'm getting my budget together and we got a meeting and da-da-da. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. What's the rate?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, girl, I can't do that.
Uh-huh.
I can't be a part of this.
That's what you're doing.
But I told her to go on Clubhouse and find somebody else who...
You told her to go to an audio platform to find it.
You know why? Because I feel like Clubhouse has a lot of people who are like faking it till they make it. So I felt like that would be someone who could do it for the rate that she needed.
How do you feel about faking it till you make it?
I'm not opposed to faking it till you make it. I'm not. But I think when you get there, you better be able to deliver.
Okay, so tell me what part of fake it till you make it you're okay with. Because for me, I feel like the problem with fake it till you make it is when you get there, you can't deliver because you don't know what to do.
No, okay. I'll give you an example. Perfect example. I'm not a braider, right?
Right.
So if I said, as you look at my lovely braid, so I may say, hey, can you braid? And I'm thinking like, you want to give me $5,000 to braid this hair, huh? I'm going to make it work.
Right.
So I may come with a braid wig. You get what I'm saying? Or I may I'm going to figure out a way to make it look, because I know the standard. I know the quality. So it's going to be what they need, but I may just have to do it a different way.
Okay. Now, if they're like, I need you to put...
700 braids in their hair?
Mm-hmm.
What I would do is I would go get a braider and I would contract the job out.
Got it.
I would be there on set and I would direct them on what I wanted and we would split the money.
I like that. I feel that. Because I feel like what a lot of people do is they get there and then they go, I hope nobody notices.
So let me give you...
Because that's where fake it till you make it goes wrong.
So, okay, it still has to be like an educated fake it till you make it.
You can't have no content, no understanding of how to do it at all.
So I'll tell you a quick story, right?
Okay.
The names will remain nameless.
I love stories like this.
This client of mine, who I had been doing her weaves for a bit, let's say I had done maybe about 4 or 5 weaves in a row for her.
Okay.
And I was charging her roughly between $800 to $1,000 in the salon. And one night, I got a call. It was maybe 1 a.m. And it was her assistant. And he said that they needed me to come and braid her hair for a weave. Not to do the weave, but just to braid it. Because they had hired someone who told her that he could do her weave for her for free. So free versus $1,000. She's like, I'm all in. But the guy couldn't do the job. So they were like, well, he's trying to braid her hair, but they just won't stay. The braids won't stay. So I was like, well, what do you mean they won't stay? So he says, well, I think he just doesn't know how to braid. I said, so if he doesn't know how to braid, how do you know he knows how to sew the weaving? And he was like, well, I'm just going to assume he knows how to do that. I was like, so here's the thing. It's 1 a.m. Of course I had to answer the phone like I was asleep, but I was up. Mm-hmm. And I was just
You are a night owl.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. But like, I was asleep.
You're like, hello.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly.
And probably just watching TV.
Mute the TV. Yeah. So I was like, so for me to get out of my bed, you're gonna have to pay $700. And that's just for me to do the braid. I'm not staying and doing the weave. And he was just like, well, no, she's willing to pay $150. I said, then you called the wrong number. I don't know why you would call this number. And I just couldn't believe that this guy would tell this woman, who's a model, like a legit model, tell her that he can put a weave in her hair and he can't even braid. He can't even get the foundation correct. I thought that I was just amazed that he would even, and he got there and just fumbled. And I saw the work from the job the next day. I wished him luck and I was like, listen, don't call this number again, okay? Unless you have a lot of money. And for real. I was like, don't do it. It's the middle of the night. And she's to be on set at 10 a.m. So I was like, I don't know what to tell you. He ended up going to Starbucks and asked the girl at Starbucks. Yep, there was a Starbucks in Times Square to stay open 24 hours. And he asked the girl that worked at Starbucks, could she braid this supermodel's hair for $150? And she was more than happy to do it.
Oh my God.
Yep. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Michael Jackson bad.
Whew.
Yeah.
Man, that is terrible.
That's when fake it until you make it goes wrong.
Right. And the thing that people don't really understand is the reputation that follows that, right? Because you're trying to figure out who you are in this industry. But the truth is that bad news travels fast in this industry, especially now that social media exists. Maybe then, I don't even know when that was, but maybe before social media, it'd be a little harder to figure it out because
it wasn't a thing at that point.
Yeah, because people were still behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But now they're like, oh, do you know blah, blah, blah? Do you know they stole blah, blah, blah's wigs?
Yeah.
Do you know they did this? Do you know they did that? And people
say.
know, like, your reputation now is the same like a celebrity's reputation. It's just you don't have as much money as them.
This is what I will say in his I don't know if this is defense, but I just felt like, damn, he got a lot of balls. That takes a lot of balls to do that. I don't have that much balls. I'm going to come knowing what I'm doing or have a great idea of what I'm doing.
Right.
So I wouldn't just go in blind. Like I said, if I'm taking a job for braids, when the job is done, she's going to look like a professional braiding her hair.
Right.
It's not going to be willy-nilly or, like, I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that.
Exactly. Okay, I want to talk about Newark again.
Somehow we always
go back to Newark. I'm just thinking about the travel time from Newark to all the jobs that you were doing. Because I'm sure you flew to LA a lot, which is fine because you probably took Newark Airport, which is okay.
Which was literally like 5 minutes from my house.
Oh, it's amazing.
The best.
But the jobs in the city were probably like a hike a little bit.
Yeah, it was really hard because it would be so unpredictable.
Yeah.
So it may take me a half an hour or it might take me 2 hours. There was like no rhyme or reason you just would never know. Like even now, like, you know how Google will say like, oh, well, today it'll probably take you about 40 minutes to get to work. The traffic is light or traffic is heavy or, you know what I'm saying? But that wasn't a thing initially. So it was just like, what are we going to get today?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it would be so horrible. And I was only willing to allot an hour and 15 minutes max.
So no matter what it was,
listen,
you might be late.
I used to say a prayer or hope for the best.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
no, I remember because there were a few times I was like, you were like, I'm looking for parking. And then you always had to look for parking.
Well, that was the other part of it. Parking was always a thing.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
That is the hardest part. I rented a car to go to North Carolina to see my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came back up, I was like, okay, I'm going to keep the car for a couple days. Girl. I mean, I will say this, though. The trade-off is great because being in your own personal space in a car is life-changing. I was like, oh, this is what it's like to be rich in New York.
Right.
I was like, this is what it's like. The only thing that would have been obviously ideal would have been if I had my own parking space. If you have your own parking space in New York, like let's say you like have one of those buildings that have like the parking underneath, boom, you got your parking and you just like roll out. And I mean, those are really obviously very pricey in New York, but having that, I feel
that's
like
the only way I would do it at this point.
Yeah. Because parking on the street is just, it's too much.
I mean, it's a job.
It's a search and destroy.
It literally is everything that's wrong with the world.
Yeah, it's long. Like there would be times where I would just be sitting in the car and I'm like, I got to make sure that I don't have to pee.
Yep.
Because I can't leave this car here. And then like for a second I had to unload the car and I had to park and like, I was like, let me just park in this fire hydrant spot. Please God, don't let anybody like pull me over. But I can't pull this stuff from so far away.
Right.
So it's just a really intense experience.
A car is really hard. So I don't even have like my truck in the city. It just lives in Jersey.
So you still have your car in Newark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So question for you. One of the things that I really loved about meeting you is I feel like you were very quick to be like, these are the things that you need to do to make sure that your business is rolling and moving. And it wasn't like, hey, make sure you know how to do makeup. You were like, oh, it's clear she knows how to do that. But what about, what are you investing in? What about disability insurance? What about life insurance? Like all these things you immediately started having as a conversation with me. Is that something you do with people often?
So for me, I think that is something that's lacking in our business. That conversation, as far as like being a freelancer and working for yourself, is thinking about your future. So if you have like a 9-to-5, it's kind of built in most times. But for us, it's not really a thing. And we have the ability to make so much money when we're young. But then as we get older, your circumstances could change. I've seen it change so many times. I was like very fortunate. Like my best friend in college, he was in finance.
Okay.
So he kind of just started me off. Like it was someone that I trusted. You know what I mean? So I kind of was able to get a portfolio very early in my career. Like actually before I even started, because I was still in Virginia at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a great friend.
Well, he was like my best friend. So it was just like, give me your bank account. and I'm going to take this money out every month. So it was to the point where, like, when I needed to move and get my own apartment in New York, I was like, I don't have any money. But I was like, oh my God, I have this money in this account. So I was able to, you know how you need, like,
Yep.
your firstborn
Child. Yeah.
to move into an apartment in New York.
100%. It's like you need first month's rent, another month's rent to be held as security, and then like another month's rent. It's like it,
and you still need to make 40 times the rent.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then you move in and you're like, oh my gosh, you would think that your apartment would be amazing, but it's like not even for all that. It's like $10,000 to like move into a New York apartment.
It's usually what you would need to buy a house anywhere else.
Okay, so going back to finance. Okay, so you had this finance.
Yeah, so my friend who basically just started me on the track. So I didn't really know, like, at the time what I was doing because he kind of just did it for me. But I didn't see how that could be a bad thing. I didn't really come from a background of knowing how to save and knowing how to, like, balance budgets and do all that kind of stuff. I just have been fortunate enough to make more money so that was never like a thing. But
you've also very intelligently aligned yourself with smart people.
So that's another part of it. So for me, I felt like I'm a hairstylist, and depending on who you're talking to, they may see that not as a professional career. They tend to. I've seen it, it's gone both ways. I've seen people take it where it is a professional thing for them, but then I've seen other people who they'll downplay it and make it seem like it's not as high end as other types of careers.
Agreed.
So for me, I felt like, well, it doesn't really matter what I chose as my career. It just matters how smart I am with my money. So when my clients I have a lot of high end clients, like, you know, there are a lot of them are lawyers, a lot of them like scientists, like, you know, things where, you know, they got their 401ks and their shit's together. So I always felt like, well, when they're talking about their stuff, I want to talk about my portfolio too. So I had to do a lot of, I just learned. I just went out of my way to kind of learn what I needed, but I learned as I was doing it. I didn't wait till I felt like I know enough about it. Now I could start investing. I had already started with my friend. I didn't know what a yield was. I didn't know what, like, so many of the terms were, but I just did it because I felt like they talk about the Dow Jones every day on TV. It's on the news every day. It's always scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But I know enough to know that because it's there, it's important. So get in on it. So for me, I did it like through life insurance.
Okay.
Whole life, term life, like I did whole life. So with whole life, it's like they invest in the stock market for you.
Okay.
So you just kind of invest aggressively or moderately or however you feel like you want to invest.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was my end. Like, okay, I'm going to start with this. And then it went off to like Roth IRAs or, you know, other ways of building money for my retirement. Just from having a financial advisor, they advise certain products. And I kind of feel like when you're younger, just do it. I mean, yeah, that's just $100 you was going to spend on food or something else.
It's so true. And the thing is like, I think about investing the same way I think about like a vacation, right? Like, you know, when you're planning a vacation, you're like, oh my God, that's so expensive. That's so expensive. That's so expensive. Mm-hmm. But you never come back and at the end of the year go, man, I shouldn't have gone on that vacation.
Right.
You're never like, oh my God, that experience was not worth it.
Yeah, I never even thought about that, but yeah, that's
you know
a good
what I
analogy.
mean? Yeah. Like it's like that. You know, it seems like a lot when you're talking to them because you had the conversation with me. One of the first things I got was disability insurance.
Mm-hmm. I always recommend
that disability. Was everything because
the first thing I will say, the best case scenario is if you die. I always say this. The worst case scenario is, let's say you get into an accident, or you know you get carpal tunnel, or you know you need surgery. And you're down for 3 months. You just can't work for 3 months. So you're literally just draining your savings or just watching no money come in, but you have to still pay all your bills. Mm-hmm. So disability insurance is good because they will temporarily pay your bills.
Amazing. And it's also something that you can continue to pay. You can pay into, like you're paying into it, right? Yeah. And it's like being put aside for you. And I feel like, I was just thinking about COVID. I was like, can I access my? And they were like, no, it's not.
Girl,
COVID
what's
is
the
not.
disability? You
COVID
don't even have
not
COVID.
Disability. I'm like, Okay, just checking, girl. And she was like,
thought of that.
yeah, she was like, get off my phone. Like, you know what I mean? She was like, call me back. Call me back later. But I had a friend of mine, she worked for a big beauty brand.
Mhm.
But recently I was talking to her on the phone, and I mean, obviously they have like insurance and all that for people who are working in a corporate environment.
Mhm.
Girl, she got into the craziest car accident. She was telling me about it. She was in a lift and she was in the back of the lift. The car like made some kind of weird turn, and then another car hit it and it spun out, and then a semi truck,
No.
yes, hit them. And she goes, girl, I have the craziest back pain. I'm in like, she had to go home to North Carolina to like make sure that she's like good. And I was just, when she was telling me the story, I was thinking about the same thing happening to someone with absolutely no disability insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was thinking about that freelance person who was
Right.
in the car,
No.
wasn't thinking about, and it's so real. This kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
Luckily one of the things that she didn't have to talk about was, for her, I don't think money was the situation or an issue.
Right.
Obviously, she was in a rented car as well. Of like, you just think about it. You don't know what's going to happen every day. Like, we pray that everything is going to be okay and that we're all right. But when you start talking to me about disability insurance, that was one of the things you were saying. Especially like your hands.
Mhm.
You need your hands.
Mhm.
Like if something happens, like what are you going to do? How are you going to be able to take care of yourself? How are you going to be able to provide?
Yeah.
And you don't want to be in a situation where you're trying to use your hands when you don't need to be using them, and then they don't even heal properly.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the real problem.
Yeah.
Typically, you don't have enough time to do the PT
Mm-hmm.
and all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, I got to get back to work because I got to make money.
Right.
And now you have a permanent life injury.
Yeah. Yeah.
So disability insurance. Okay, we talked about life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently upgraded to whole. I was on term.
So I'm looking into long-term healthcare.
Okay, tell me more.
Long-term healthcare it's not necessarily for someone who's single or doesn't have kids. It can be for anybody. But for me, I think it would be a good idea because it helps to take care of me when I get older. So you have to put out so much money. Let's say like a nursing home or assisted living, they're really expensive. So you don't want to be in a bind where you don't have any income coming in, but you still need to make $15,000 a month to be able to live in a nice facility.
Okay. Yeah.
So it kind of it absorbs a lot of the cost of those types of things.
Got it.
Or
so is it you're investing in it and then it's going to multiply and grow the same way like something would as like a bond?
There's different ones.
Okay.
So there's different terms depending on which company you go with.
Okay.
So they do have the ones where they do that, but they also have the ones where it just basically takes care of you. So now what I'm looking into is the amount of time. Because I dealt with one company when I was looking and they said they take care of you basically until you die. And then I saw this other company where they were like, well, they only take care of you for 3 years. So I'm like, well, how do you plan? How do you know when that's going to happen? Like this. So it's no way to know. So I had a meeting last week. Oh, no, actually the week before, just to kind of figure out what I need to do for that.
Got it. Okay. So it's definitely something to think about. I didn't even know that was available.
Yeah.
Okay. So life insurance, disability insurance, and then there's also stocks and also cryptocurrency.
So, okay. I have a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think throw it all at the wall, see what sticks. You can make so much money and just spend it. Or you can make some money and you can try to invest some of it. You can't just spend all your money. And I'm very good at spending money. So I have to do my part to make sure that I just, have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I try to do everything. So I have crypto, I have stock. I don't have a lot of stock though.
Yeah?
Yeah, my stocks are basically tied into my life insurance policies.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about crypto because you know what? I learned about crypto a really long time ago and did not invest in it at all.
Ooh.
Like could have put $100 in, sis. Just $100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just $100 in and I would have been so good. So I was dating a guy who was really good friends with this guy who was really big into like gaming and was really big into like online gambling, which obviously was illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what they were doing.
So was weed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that now it's a whole business,
Yeah.
right? There are whole places you can go to pick that up exactly the way you want it. So, but yeah, like he, you know what I mean? He would make money. Basically that's how Bitcoin like
Right.
And I remember hearing about it and I was like, that sounds weird and a scam. Like it just sounds like, right. And what I'm learning throughout life is that the early adopters, I'm not saying that it doesn't help you or it doesn't hurt you sometimes because of course it can, because like you can invest in something and it just like doesn't work out. But there are a lot of situations like that where, like you said, just throw some money in. You know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah.
hey, let's just see what it is. Just play around with it and kind of see, because I don't have regrets in my life. But I do think about the fact that sometimes I wouldn't say I'm an early adopter. I'm like right after the early adopters most times. Not with Bitcoin, because I still don't have any cryptocurrency. But like with
Really?
yeah, but isn't that funny? Like surprising, right? A little bit.
That's very surprising.
Yeah, so I don't know why I don't, because I know almost every one of my friends does. But I think one of the things that you said is you don't have to understand everything. You just have to know it's important.
Yeah, you just need a general knowledge of it. And that's enough, because again, it's very easy to spend all your money and give like all the food apps your fees.
Oh my gosh. Exactly. I remember when you told me that, you were like, Delina, did you know how much money that like it takes away from the actual restaurants? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, whenever you buy directly through the app, it actually gives the restaurant less money. And I was like,
because they have to pay in just like how we pay in. They don't do anything.
Exactly. And they're just collecting a check, which is wild. When it comes to investing in things, so obviously you have a house. Was that one of the first really big investments that you made?
Well, I already had like life insurance policies.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, build wealth over time. They accumulate money.
Yeah, they do.
Cash value. So
and you can pull them out if you need some of that money. I've also heard you can pull it out without
absolutely pulled money out over the years. Yes.
That's exactly what my rep said to me, where she was like, okay, listen, just so you know, putting it in here is actually better, because if something happens, you don't have to worry about the kind of penalties you would get with a Roth IRA.
Right, exactly. Which you would need to be like 59.5 or something like that.
Right, because a Roth IRA, I don't know if people know this, but Roth IRA, because I didn't know this, is like if you're a freelancer or you're an independent business person, it is your version of a 401k, basically.
Yes.
So every freelancer should have that, should be paying into one, even if you can only pay a little bit.
So just so you know, when I started my Roth IRA, I didn't have $1,000 to start a Roth IRA.
Oh, so what'd you do?
So what I did, they give you the option. So I paid $100 until it accumulated to $1,000, and then it rolled over into a Roth IRA. So there's more than one way to do everything.
I love that you said that, because I'm sure there are, people sometimes will be like, well, I'm not really that good at saving money, or I'm not really that good at,
Yeah, that's me.
But yeah, perfect. So it's like, okay, now you can actually just do something where it just, okay.
Yeah, so my financial advisor
$100
told me.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't have known otherwise. Because I was like, well, now you know damn well I got $1,000. But I don't have $1,000. I still need shoes.
Right.
Exactly.
For this. Yeah.
For this. I still need to make impulse buys. I need to eat my money. So he was just like, oh, well, no, you can just put in $100 until you accumulate to $1,000.
Something that you also told me was like, don't be buying all this designer stuff. Like, don't trip out. Don't try to stun on everybody.
That's a trap.
That is because it's a never ending thing. There's always going to be something new that comes out.
Well, that's the trend of we made it. You know what I'm saying? But it's not really real. Like for me, I made it means that I have my security in my future. I have money saved in the bank, which is always a constant battle for me, by the way. There's money in there, but I don't know how much.
Gotcha.
But again, I'm putting away. There's a couple of different things that people do. Some people like to see a lot of money in their accounts.
Yes.
And then you have people like me who's like, I don't trust myself. So what I do is I just make sure I have all of the things in place that I need. Like I said, my investments, I have all my, like literally every month, I probably spend about $1,200 on insurances and just the things I need.
Yeah.
Not things that I see a return on right now. It's just things that we need to be an adult, I think.
I think that's really smart though, because what I have heard is that if you have too much money sitting in the bank, you're doing it wrong. Well, you should.
Oh, really?
Yeah, totally. You should have your money in investments and in other places, because the bank only gives you a return, even in a savings account, of like 1%, less than.
It's true.
So it's like you're not making enough money on that anyway. And if you calculate it over time, you find out that actually you're like losing money, because the way the money is appreciating versus the interest rate that you're actually making on it is less. So you're actually losing money by keeping a ton of it in the bank. And nobody talks about that.
So I think That's one of the reasons why this is such an important conversation,
Yeah.
because we don't like to talk about money.
At all.
But I don't know another way to help you have a better understanding of money if we don't talk about it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, even if they don't understand everything that we're saying in this conversation, it'll still prompt them to Google certain things or look up certain things for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's the only way we're going to get there, is if we kind of like at least start the conversation.
And that's the thing. It's like you just need something to pique your interest. There could be one thing in this conversation that gets exciting for
Yeah.
you, like, ooh, okay, Roth IRA. Okay, let me look into that.
Mhm.
And it's like that's where you start.
Mhm.
Or maybe you start with disability insurance, like where
Yeah.
I started with,
Yeah.
you know? So there's always ways to get to the goal. But the
Mhm.
idea, I feel like people just want to do all or nothing. And the truth is it should be incremental over time,
Mhm.
just based on how much money you're making. I wasn't making a lot of money when I first came to New York. So there was a point where I stopped contributing to my 401k. I didn't have a Roth IRA for some years.
Right.
I didn't have the money.
Right.
I was trying to live. I was trying to eat. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
sometimes that's what happens.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Nothing
But
wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Everyone has
But
these
it's
kinds
still
of
a
situations.
goal, and it's still in the, like, it's still part of your conversation of who you want to be and what you need to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you reminded me of the importance of it,
Mhm.
right? So like that's where I feel like this relationship is so important to me, because you always remind me to think about the future.
Mhm.
And you're like, well, what are you doing right now to think about the future? That's somebody that you need to have in your life. It's not
Mhm.
always about the now. It's not always about the vacation you're taking. It's not always about like what money you're making or what rate you're
Mhm.
charging right now. It's
Yeah.
about how are you planning with what you're making right now to do what you're going to do in the future.
Yeah,
You know?
people are able to do so much, but way less.
Exactly.
You know?
It's wild how much people can do if you're actually planning and
Yeah.
thinking about it and strategically being like, I'm going to put money in this, this, and
Yeah.
this. And you're like, oh, it doesn't feel like I have a lot of money. But when you get to the place where you need it, you have it.
Well, also too, a good point is the younger you start, the more you can accumulate.
Yeah, can you give that example of, I think it was like 25 versus if you start in your 30s?
Yeah, I think 25 versus 35. So I want to say, if you start saving $100 at 25, you can amass $1 million by the time you're 65. But if you wait till 35 to start, you will only get, I think they said, about 500,000 or maybe 600,000, but it's like a considerable amount less.
Yeah.
Like, almost like, how is that possible? 10 years cost you half the amount of money.
Right.
That's like crazy.
Crazy. But it just goes to show, it's like that ability to be able to plan. And I think that our career choice, right, because we're so celebrity adjacent, you sometimes get in this mindset where you're like, oh, I'm going to hit it where I'm going to get a lot of money all of a sudden.
Mm.
And I'll be able to do all the things I wanted to do. And the truth is, it's all about the planning.
Yeah.
It's not about
Yeah.
like that one time where you get that big hit of money, because if you can't control what you're doing with the little amount of money you have, how are you going to control when you get blessed with more?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're not going to know what to do with it. You're not even going to be thinking about the fact that you have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
You know, like all of that stuff makes a difference. I want to talk to you about rates, because this is also something we talk about a lot. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like rates have changed.
Rates have changed.
Why do you think they've changed, Porsche Waldo?
So I think there's a few things factoring into why rates have changed. The main one is there's no sense of community in our industry anymore. I think you were already well established in your business when I spoke to you about just financial stability and those things, but you were actually willing to listen. So I think it's part of my responsibility. Like, if I know, then I should kind of help other people. But it could have been something you were already doing. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but there's no community. Or like you said, they don't want to tell you what their rates are. They don't want to tell you what they're doing. So there's so many people, when you don't have someone telling you how much to charge or what to do, you could lowball yourself and end up getting some ridiculous rate. Well, that screws up the rates for everyone else. Because if they know someone's willing to accept $500 versus $3,000, of course, they're going to say, well, there's a market for people only getting paid $300 or, some ridiculously low rate. So I've learned over the years, when you don't have a conversation about money and everyone is just doing their own individual thing, it just screws up the rate. So over the years, I've literally gone from making, let's say, $3,000 for a job to making $350 for the same job.
Wow.
Because there was such an influx, I think, from reality TV, where people wanted to be in the beauty business and glam, and they wanted to say that they do celebrities or whatever the case, to the point where they were not even concerned about the money. So how could you sustain if you're not concerned about the money? That's the most important part of all of this.
the most important.
I'm not here for clout.
Yeah. It's wild to me that people would literally, I want to make sure that people pick this up, like, and understand the fact that you were working full time as a hairstylist and was able to buy property.
Yeah.
Right? That's a person who's working in an industry and getting paid an amount of money that's comparable to somebody working at a 9 to 5.
Yeah, but
Or
remember, I just told you I had someone who said, listen, this is how much you're going to charge this person for this job.
Exactly.
So you have to be willing to listen to.
You can't be arrogant.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of ego involved right now in our industry in terms of being like, everybody wants to be a celebrity this, a celebrity that, and they're not thinking about
how they've screwed up the race.
Yeah. And some of them I don't even think they know. You know, the funny thing is that you and I have conversations about this all the time where, you know, I've always been a great negotiator. Like, always have been. Like, I don't think you've even had to tell me, Delina, you need to raise your rate. I don't think you've ever said that to me.
That's never going to be the conversation. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. And part of that has to do with the fact that I obviously hired the right business coach in the very beginning that has been working in the industry for years and kind of was like, this is what people are charging. But I also always have paid attention to people who've had, you know, clout and who have done this for real. You know, I know you, I know Manifa, like, y'all talk to me about this and you're like, this is what we used to get paid. I'm like, okay, well, I'm trying to get as close to what Kevin Aquan was getting paid as I can, you know? Like, you hear about, I had a friend of mine recently tell me she did an Amex commercial with a client and she got paid $15,000 a day. Recently.
Wow.
There's still money.
I'm now, and listen, money never went away.
Money never went away.
But people are willing to take less. And here's a big part of it. They don't know their worth.
They don't know their worth.
So if you don't know that someone can get $15,000 for a day rate, then you would say, well, you know what, just give me $1,000 a day. Because that sounds like a lot of money to you. Yeah. So if you don't know, you don't know. Right. But instead of, like I said, having a community and having people you can talk to about these things, you just say, well, I'm off on my own, doing my own thing. I got this. I'm making $1,000 a day. Yeah. And it's like you don't even know. No and clue. That individualism, I think, is, like you said, like, I mean, you mentioned reality TV. I think that, like, you're doing makeup for people who are on television that are not actually actors. So, like, you've told me before, you're like, the budget's different. Right. Because they're not actors. They're not. So, you know, when somebody goes to school, is trained for something or studies or actually has to audition, right? Like, you're being put on the show based on what you do. Right. Or how you can, like, portray yourself or tell whatever story they want to tell. But you don't get lines. You don't have to learn anything. It's just like you just show up as you. Right. But or a version of yourself. A version of yourself. Right. So it's different. Of course, the budget's going to be different because they could technically put anyone in that they want to put in for that. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, for me, I try to go with, depending on the project and whatever I feel comfortable with doing. So if they say to me, oh, well, we only have a budget of, let's say, $500 for the day, then I will say, well, then maybe the artist needs to match that. Whoever the actual person I'm working with, they need to supplement the money. Right. To make up to the day, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. There's ways around it. Yeah, there's ways around it. That's a really good point. Because I think that comes with understanding how to negotiate. Yeah. Because how do you get to the place where it makes sense for you to do this? Because you never want to walk into a job, and, like, at least for me, I never want to walk into a job. If I feel like something is, quote unquote, like, not enough money, I'll just say no. I'd rather sit at home and do nothing and not be booked. Won't say no. Right. They don't have. Well, but that's that scarcity mindset, Portia. Yeah. Like, operating from this place of feeling like, if I don't take it, maybe I won't have another job, is not the mentality of an entrepreneur. That's the mentality of somebody who is used to having a job. Right. And if that's the mentality that you have, you shouldn't be doing this. And I don't tell anyone that they shouldn't be doing it. But if that's how you think, if you are more fear-minded than you are entrepreneurial, because it doesn't mean that, because as an entrepreneur, I never have, you know, experiences of not feeling fear. I feel fear all the time. Right. I just continue to step forward into it and push into this space of being like, you know what? Like, I deserve to have this, and I know that more is coming. Well, it also helps too when you have community, a sense of community. That part. Because you know, like, it's feasible. Yeah. Versus maybe it can't be done. You know, it can be done and done well. Yeah. Thank you. This has been so good. Yeah, you know what? I think we have to normalize these conversations because for a lot of people, it's really about, oh, well, what do they have on, or what do they, but it's like I feel very comfortable knowing that I'm secure, that I have a good credit score, and knowing that my business is taken care of. You got to take care of the business. If you want to be a brand, I don't even consider myself a brand. I really, I have to get better at that part of it, because that's more of a newer thing, I guess, where everyone's a brand now.
Mhm.
But like, my business is straight,
Right.
and I feel very secure in knowing that my future is secure and I can take care of myself. And it's an important thing that we all need to discuss.
Definitely. You all need to feel comfortable in order to say that you're handling your business, and that you can push your ego to the side so that you can get help. Because asking someone for advice and listening and being vulnerable enough and being someone who's open enough to hear what someone else has to say and really listen and internalize is important. I've learned this in so many places, but if you feel like you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right?
Yeah.
Recent switch of my manager taught me that. You remember, I called you and I go, I don't feel like I should be in a position where I'm advising my manager. I feel like they should be advising me. Right? And you were like, okay, I understand. It wasn't because I wasn't capable of doing the work. It was because I wanted to make sure that I put somebody in position that knew what they were doing, so that we could have like-minded conversations about the strategy of where we're going. So so I just want to say thank you. You've been that person for me.
Oh, good. I didn't even realize that.
You have.
You got your shit together, Delina. I didn't know.
Listen, like-minded people hang out.
Exactly.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cheers to that. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening to It Takes a Village. Be sure to check out the show notes for more details on how to follow and connect with Porsche Waldo. It Takes a Village was produced by Tanny Productions. The team includes Britt Robbins, Delisha Dixon, and Maria Verhel de Jos. Our theme music is by B. Nick. If you like this conversation, subscribe right now so you don't miss our next episode coming to you very soon. Follow us on Instagram at Delina Medhin Presents, where you'll see and hear more clips from the podcast that didn't make it into the episode. And follow me at Delina Medhin. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.